What's going on, everyone? Dr. Tom Walters here from Rehab Science. Today we are going to talk about rotator cuff tears, especially a muscle called supraspinatus, which runs right here on the top of your shoulder and comes out on the side. So if you've had an MRI and been diagnosed with a tear of your rotator cuff, or you have pain that's over here on the side, maybe goes down your arm, stay tuned for today's exercises. So as I mentioned, we're going to talk about the supraspinatus muscle. This is one of 4 rotator cuff muscles, and most of the people we see in physical therapy who have rotator cuff injuries are degenerative in nature. They're people who are kind of in middle adulthood, and they have these degenerative tears of the supraspinatus tendon. So remember, a muscle hooks into a tendon, and the tendon hooks on the bone. So supraspinatus is the most commonly torn rotator cuff muscle in older people who have degenerative tears. Of course, younger people who fall or in sports can tear one of the other 3 rotator cuff muscles, but we're going to focus on supraspinatus because this is what most people, they're going to get an MRI and see this. They're going to see a supraspinatus tendon tear, and these are the exercises you're going to want to do to help strengthen that muscle and tendon. So again, supraspinatus, it runs underneath your trapezius muscle here. It's down, it runs underneath in this space, and then it goes underneath this bone right here, the acromion, and its tendon attaches out here. So when people tear their supraspinatus tendon, it's usually underneath this bone. There's 1 centimeter underneath there in between the ball of your shoulder, the ball and socket, and that bone. There's 1 centimeter in there. And rotator cuff pain that comes from supraspinatus will typically be provoked with things where you're reaching away from your body. So maybe you're reaching into your refrigerator, into a cupboard, reaching overhead. You'll get this sharp pain right up here, kind of on the top side of the shoulder. And again, it can sometimes radiate down the side of the arm. So if you're reaching and you get kind of sharp pains like that, that's probably related to your supraspinatus muscle and tendon. So if you've got those kind of symptoms, we're going to look at 4 exercises that have been shown in the research to be the best for recruiting and strengthening supraspinatus. The first exercise is the one most people are familiar with for the rotator cuff. It's called side lying external rotation. Sometimes this is also done in standing with a band, which is a fine option too. So what you're going to do is roll up a towel and put it here in between your elbow and your side. That'll help keep your arm against your side so you're not lifting it as we want, just to create a pure rotation movement. So this is external rotation of the shoulder, and usually arm weight is too easy. So what we're going to do is grab a dumbbell somewhere between 1 to 5 pounds. You're going to hold that, start down here by your stomach, and then rotate up as far as you can without turning your body. So just as far as your shoulder will rotate, up and down nice and slow on the way down, the eccentric contraction, and then you can go a little faster on the way up. So we tend to think about, maybe 3 to 4 seconds on the way down, and then 2 to 3 seconds on the way up. So for all these exercises, we are going to do 3 sets of 10 to 12 repetitions. So just nice and slow like that, and this exercise will help strengthen your rotator cuff. Again, really probably the most important one and the one most people have seen before. For the second exercise, you can do it sitting or in standing. So on the injured side, we're going to hold the dumbbell with our arms straight, and we're going to think about lifting our arm out at sort of a 45-degree angle. It's not going to go straight to the front. It's not going to go out to the side. It's going to go at this sort of diagonal angle. This exercise is called the full can because our thumb is going to be up. You can imagine holding like a can of soda. You want to hold it with your thumb up so that it doesn't spill. There's a test we do in orthopedic practice where when we're testing some of this rotator cuff, we do one called the empty can where the thumb is down, and then we push on the arm, and people with rotator cuff tears, that will often hurt pretty bad. So this position compromises the rotator cuff tendon, so we don't want to do the exercise thumb down. We want to do it thumb up. That allows more space here in this subacromial space and is better on the supraspinatus tendon. So what you're going to do is grab that dumbbell again, and you're just going to lift up to shoulder level and then back down. So again, this is called the full can. Nice and slow. One of the top 4 for strengthening supraspinatus and its tendon. So again, shoot for 3 sets, 10 to 12 repetitions, just nice and slow like that. If you are getting really sharp pain with this, then drop the weight. With all these exercises, it's okay to have mild discomfort, maybe 2 to 3 out of 10, as long as your pain isn't worse the next day. So sometimes with tendons, we like to be able to feel a little bit of discomfort while you're doing it, but it shouldn't be a sharp stab. You know, if it's more than a 3 out of 10, then just drop the weight down. Okay, so that's our second one, the full can. The last two exercises are going to be here on your stomach. So a weight bench works really well because it's not too wide. If you don't have one, you could use the side of a bed, something like that. You just have to slide to the side so that the arm you're working is off the edge. So for this one, it's another external rotation exercise, but we're going to do it in what's called the 90-90 position. So you want your arm to go out to the side so that you have 90 degrees of your armpit, and then you want your elbow to be at 90 degrees. So just find that position where you've got a 90-90, and you're going to turn your arm up like this to the horizontal. So this is external rotation again, but in a more challenging position. So even just arm weight for some people can be enough resistance. I have again got this 5-pound dumbbell. This might even be a little bit too much for me. And again, if you have more extreme pain, just drop the weight. You could even hold a water bottle. You don't necessarily have to have a dumbbell for this one. So you're just going up and down like that. Try to keep it just pure rotation. Your shoulder don't move around out of that position a bunch. Just try to keep it locked in at that 90-90 and move through that rotation. Okay, so that's the third exercise. That's 90-90 external rotation. Another great one for the supraspinatus muscle and tendon. The last exercise is called a prone Y. So prone just means we're on our stomach again. This one is probably the hardest of all of them, so you may not need a dumbbell at all. Again, you could just start with arm weight, maybe hold something really light like a water bottle if you need more resistance. You're going to position yourself at the edge again, and for this one, you're going to have that thumb up position like we had on the full can. You are going to not reach straight overhead, not out to the side, sort of at that diagonal position again. We're going to reach up and think about squeezing these muscles kind of at the bottom of the shoulder blade, the lower trapezius. It's also, again, going to work our rotator cuff and supraspinatus, but what you're going to do is you're going to think about coming up and kind of pulling those shoulder blade muscles and then going back down to kind of the floor and then pulling back up again. In all of these, think about kind of keeping your neck in a neutral position so you don't end up giving yourself some neck pain. You know, I'm kind of looking up, so I'm not always in the best position, but try to keep yourself kind of in a neutral position and then come up, squeeze, and kind of just go back down, up and down like that, nice and slow through that full range. If this one, you know, sometimes when pain is really acute, this one will be too uncomfortable to do. So if that's your case and you have a lot of pain, just do the first three and add this one in as you get better. So we're kind of working from most important and least stressful to most stressful. So if you've got a lot of really irritable rotator cuff pain, you might just start with the first two exercises, side lying external rotation and the full can. Those are the two we start almost everyone with. And then as the pain calms down and things are getting a little better, you can add the last two. So once again, if you've got, you know, pain that's up here on the side, especially when you're reaching out away from your body or overhead, these would be great exercises. If you've had an MRI and it shows rotator cuff, you know, tendinosis, a partial tear, tendinitis, these are the same exercises we'd give people in physical therapy. So give them a try and let me know if you have any questions. All right, you guys, see you next time. Bye.